Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome back to Business Without Borders. Today, I am going to Malaysia. And yes, I obviously have favorites. I've been here before. I came back because I have so many friends here. It's such a great place to be. Just like Scotland, I had to do it twice. But today I brought lots of people with me because one thing I have learned about Malaysia is the diversity. The diversity is absolutely overwhelming. So we tried to pick one of a little bit of everything. So we could talk about all the different ethnicities, religions, all kinds of things that no one wants to talk about. And if you haven't tuned into this show before, that's what it is about. So there is no intent to be offensive or insulting to anyone. It is a show about learning about culture. It's about learning about where people live and where they work, not from a book, but from real people to see how real people live and what real people think. So I see a lot of business opportunity for Americans and people all over the world to work with Malaysia. And I wanted to bring some of my good friends here to talk about what they do and how they do it. So I'd like to welcome everyone. Thank everyone for being here. Also, you'll see that I have quite a few people with me today. We are testing the limits of StreamYard. So if we lose people that come in and out or freeze a little, please forgive us as we work through the kinks here. And I'm going to surprise them with a question before we do some introductions, because when I put out the link about our show, I was surprised how few Malaysians have been to these amazing Batu Caves. So who's been to the Batu Caves? Let's see some waves. The expat has. He's been there. I thought that was really funny today. I looked it up. One of the first things that pops up is these 400 million year old caves. And on my post, somebody Malaysian said, wow, I've never been there. Wow, I've never. So it's amazing what you learn about your country when someone else asks you to talk about it. So I'm going to start today with just some introductions. I want to make sure everybody gets to know all of our guests. And I'm going to start with Wilson because we keep losing him. So Wilson, why don't we start with you before you're gone? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Oh, maybe he's already gone. Okay, we lost him already. Just kidding. All right. So Andreas, why don't we start with you? Tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Yes, I'm still here. No, I'm freezing already. I see myself. Okay, I'm back again. Okay. Yes, my name is Andreas, and I'm a German living in Malaysia and Asia since 1993. And I came here on an assignment with the United Nations to work in the Prime Minister's Department in Malaysia at that point of time, to run a project to overcome Malaysian disparities. That means spatial disparities in population and economic development. And I actually thought like I was well prepared. Now you got to remember that was all before the internet. So I was like doing my little research that I could do before I came here, talking to older professors of mine, reading some newspapers, talking to some friends, was also prepared by the UN a little bit, but coming here, I realized I know nearly nothing about Malaysia, and I stepped into so many cultural pit holes overall, which was actually quite funny. And luckily, I had good friends pretty quickly that adopted me and taught me about Malaysian culture and to behave well, to not offend anybody else, to get kicked out of that beautiful country. And I remember that the moment I came here, I just totally loved the place. The food is really one of the most, if not even the most amazing food in the whole world. Not necessarily the healthiest, but forget about that one. The people are great, as you can see here already. The work was awesome. So I decided to stay because it was just such a vibrant culture overall. Well, that's me here right now. And yay, over back to you, Angie.
Oh, thanks. But you forgot, he got so excited about Malaysia, he didn't tell us what he does. One of the reasons I met all of these wonderful people is because of Andreas. I met with him. I was fascinated by what he does. I also met everybody here through BNI. So I like to give BNI a plug for what they do. But Andreas has done so much for me through just learning what he does on LinkedIn, kind of sparked my journey on LinkedIn, which I know everybody has seen and watched become something. And I really accredit a lot of that to Andreas because what he does is so interesting interesting. So tell us just a little about what you do.
Yeah, okay. Now, after Malaysia, I worked 3 years in Indonesia and in Singapore as well for 1.5 years. Came back to Malaysia in 2000, and since then I stay here. And there was a lot of mergers and acquisitions going on at that point of time in Malaysia. We had 60 banks earlier, and it was brought down to about 10 banks. And I was in an HR consulting company, loved it. But many people said, like, it's hard to change behaviors, it's hard to change mindsets. And I nearly got hypnotized by this one as well. Until in 2003, I came across a little tool called NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and later on also hypnosis. And I realized through NLP, it's actually possible to change mindsets fast and quickly and remove limiting beliefs and negative emotions. And I decided at that point of time that this is going to be my future career. Became a trainer of NLP, of hypnosis, of a beautiful tool called timeline therapy techniques, and do this for the past, I think, 16 years overall. And it's just an awesome tool to work with all these beautiful people here, helping them to reach their goals. That's what I'm doing.
Awesome. So before I go on to the next one, I'm going to graduate. We have a lot of other friends that are here watching us from Malaysia. So hi Raj, hi Carl, hi Rachel, hi all kinds of people. So we have lots of that going on. I'll pop those on the screen too. But I think Wilson's back. So let's see if we can get Wilson before he disappears again. Wilson, are you here? No, he's not here. That's going to be our joke for the day. Wilson, are you here? No, he's not.
He's just a picture.
But he's a cute little face down there in the corner. Really interesting guy. You should check him out on LinkedIn too. Also, for all you on the show, please drop your LinkedIn handles, your LinkedIn links in the comment section or even in our private chat, and I'll put it on the screen so everyone can connect with you. Okay, let's go to Yuvanes. Yuvanes, tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Hi, everyone. My name is Yuvanes, and I'm a Malaysian Indian. What I do is, for profession, I'm a lawyer by profession, been a litigator for the past 12 years actually. Since 2017, I've been running my own firm, a partnership with my partner, Maria and Nisha. So yes, that's what I do here as for my profession. Yeah, that's what I do.
Awesome. Yeah, and following her, I've actually learned how complicated my law is because she writes little things that are going on. I'm like, oh, does that happen here? I don't even know. So she's really fascinating to watch and to follow. Aiden, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yes, thank you so much, Angie, for having me today. Okay, my name is Aiden, and I am from Ipoh, a north small little town, 2 hours from KL. And by the way, I have been staying in Kuala Lumpur for roughly about 13 years right now. And at this moment, I help process payroll for most of my clients. So which means that I have this opportunity to touch a lot of people's life by ensuring their salaries on time every single month. Isn't that beautiful career that I'm having? Right?
Okay. Excited about it too. I absolutely love that. I'm super excited. Thank you for being here. Okay, Wuan, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I'm Wuan. Professionally, I provide children entrepreneur program to education centers and private schools. So our program trains children to run their own business. I'm from Penang, but before I share Penang, I just want to share a short story about Batu Caves, since we talk about Batu Caves. So when I was really young, I think I can't remember how old I was. I was not innocent and everything. So I saw a monkey in front of me, like in the Batu Caves. So I had like a packet of Mentos, like the mint. And then it looked at me. I'm like, okay, I think you're hungry. So I fed the little monkey Mentos. And then in the end, the monkey was like, anyway, that was like my childhood memory. So yes, I've been to Batu Caves when I was really, really, really young. And I still remember that scene until now. That we shouldn't feed monkeys like Mentos.
That's so cute. That reminds me of Gibraltar. Those, I don't know if you've been to Gibraltar or not, but the little monkeys are all over the place in Gibraltar. And my son was like 8 when we took him there. And the lady said, don't keep any food. They'll take it from you. And he had this empty box of cookies because he was a little booger, and he took it out there, and sure enough, that monkey took it and he opened it up, and then he looked at my son and he threw it at him. Like definitely lighten up your life.
Aw.
Cute.
Oh,
Okay, Gopi.
But anyway, I promised to share something special about Penang, so I'm going to share
Yeah.
that. Penang is listed as UNESCO World Cultural Heritage Site, and I want to share this because there's this street, it's the Mosque Street in Penang, right? They call Masjid Kapitan Keling. It's actually named after a mosque, and along that street we have a church, we have a Chinese temple, a Hindu temple, and a mosque on the same street. So end to end, from the mosque all the way to the church is about 7 minutes walking distance.
Wow. See,
Yeah,
that is
so
so
that
neat
is something
about
cool
Malaysia
about
too.
Penang.
Yeah, the religious acceptance there is just amazing to me. Not to mention that you have a holiday like every other Wednesday for someone's religion or something. It's the most celebrated place ever. Okay, Gopi, tell us a little bit about you. Welcome. Oh, I can't hear Gopi.
Hey, Angie. Good evening.
Oh, there he is. Yes.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. Okay, nice to see all these faces from all over the place. Gopi. I'm a unit trust consultant with Public Mutual Berhad, Public Bank in Malaysia. I'm a third generation Indian. Third generation meaning that my grandfather was the one who came over to Malaysia. I'm born in Seremban. Seremban's a town south of Kuala Lumpur. So most people know Kuala Lumpur. If you talk about Malaysia, it's mostly Kuala Lumpur. So it's south of Kuala Lumpur. This is the place where people who don't like the hustle and bustle of Kuala Lumpur come and stay. So you can work in KL, but if you don't like this high speedness of KL, then you come to Seremban. And then I've been here since I was born. So, and I'm still here, and I'm doing my business here in Seremban as well. Okay, if there's anything unique about Seremban, is the fact that everybody in Seremban wants to have a chillax life. They want to have a very chillaxed life. If you're comfortable in Seremban, you end up being here till I don't know when. So it's not
cool.
for those who are rushing for money or success or those type of things. If you're talking about Seremban, another thing that a lot of people from in Malaysia will always talk about is the pau. There's this pork pau. It's a pau. Pau is type of how would you say it? It's a type of food which is has a filling, the pork filling, and it's like an empire. They have like a castle that they build. It's literally nearly the size of a castle, and they sell this food, and it's right off the highway. So that's one of the famous things in Seremban. And you're talking about Batu Caves. Actually, most of our forests and mountains in Malaysia, Borneo, and our side peninsula, Malaysia, is more than 130 million years in age, in reality. Wow. So that's how long actually the entire area is been around.
Wow. That's amazing.
And I ended up in investment because of statistics that I can give you a quick one. There's a major disparity in the Indians' equity involvement in business. We only have 1.3% of equity ownership in the country, whereas the rest have at least 20, 30, 40% amongst the many other races. So that was something that I looked at it, hey, why is that so? And that's where my journey started to go into investment. So back to you, Angie.
Yeah, really
Hope
cool.
you have an awesome day.
Yeah, thanks. It's going to be fun. All right. Every time I get ready to call on Wilson, he's gone again. So, Coach Cheanu, let's try you. You look stable.
Hello. Good morning, and good morning, America. I'm Coach Cheanu. In Malaysia, currently, I'm ranked #1 on Google as the MLM trainer and network marketing coach. So what I do, I coach clueless MLM business owners who are still using the old norm approaches, who are still struggling in the new norm to have prospects listen to them without hunting or spamming on social media. I do have a course called the Recruit 21 course. It's a coaching course that I created that provide clarity for MLM business owners. My students are all across Malaysia, Singapore, Germany, Finland, and Netherlands. So, yep, that's what I do. In fact, what I can do for you is to make your newsfeed looks better without all those spamming and stuff.
Very exciting. And I've talked to him a lot about what he does. Highly recommend him, especially because I don't know anyone in the whole United States with all the networking I do that does what he does. So if you're an MLM, it's a great course that is affordable isn't even the word for it. It's an incredible value. Okay, Dr. Ellie, one of my favorites. No offense, guys, but I get so jazzed about my hair and learning all this stuff, following him. He's one of my favorites. Welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, Angie. Hi. Thanks for having me here. And good morning to you there and in America. And good evening to everyone else who probably is in Malaysia right now. My name is Dr. Ellie, and I am a hair transplant doctor. Basically, what I do is I try to, restore the confidence from mostly men, but some women too, and shift their hairs from useless places like the back and put it to the front so they look really awesome in photos, and especially when they go live. So you want to see, head full of hair. So I think I'm touching some nerve of one person there. Anyway, yeah, we there. So anyway, it'll be something like what Wayne Rooney has done, Gordon Ramsay has done it. Some say even David Beckham has done it, but definitely Tom Hanks has gotten it done. Probably the most famous is Elon Musk at the moment. So yeah, basically that's what I do. At the same time, I do a lot of education. I try to teach people as much as possible about hair care and how they would love to get their hair optimized, don't lose their hair, how to pick shampoos, etc. So that's again what I love to do. I originate from Kuala Lumpur, the capital of Malaysia, and it's probably one of the most well-known cities of Malaysia. Yeah, here's a fun fact. So the name Kuala Lumpur actually stands. What it means, it means muddy confluence. So back in the heydays, which until today is still there, there's two rivers that would actually join right smack in the middle of the city, and both rivers are horribly muddy, and they still look muddy till today. Well, semi-muddy. It's not as bad as it is anymore. So that's where the name came from. So Kuala is confluence, Lumpur means mud. So as much as it sounds really awesome, it just means a very muddy city. Fortunately, it's not as bad now. Not as bad now, but it was a city that is well known for tin mining back in the 1800s. So it was the #1 tin mining city of the country before it was up in Perak and Ipoh. And fun fact, the Twin Towers that a lot of people know, the Petronas Twin Towers, was built on a previous horse track. So it was the betting grounds of a lot of people.
Oh, and those are right here for anyone who.
Oh, you've got it there. You've got it there. Fantastic.
The towers.
Fantastic.
Yeah, at least I hope I do.
Yeah.
Let's see. Not working. Okay, that's all right. We'll try again.
All right.
Well,
back to you, Angie.
You just busted my bubble.
I
thought I was all cool because I knew about Kuala Lumpur and it was so fancy. Now I just know it's a muddy mess, but no, very cool. Very cool. So thank you guys again for being here. I'm really excited to talk to everyone about what they do. Before we do that, I am going to share a quick picture, hopefully this time, of there's our towers. There we go. We see the towers there. There's the fancy towers that we like. And I was going to share also a quick picture of where Malaysia is, because although it's obvious to you, a lot of Americans won't know where it is. The other thing that is weird to me is that it's kind of like split in half. Like you got one here and one there. And then but it's near Cambodia, Vietnam, all in that type of area right there. So If you're wondering where I'm talking about today, that's where we are. So now let's get down to business. Let's talk a little bit about stuff. So Gopi already told us that he is into wealth management and how he got there, a little bit about Taruman, also used to be a tin mining thing. But I'm curious, and I think everybody is, with COVID, how has the economy changed in Malaysia? What have you seen as an investment person with the change of the pandemic?
Okay, good question, Angie. One of the things I've noticed amongst the investment is that we have shifted from most of our business has shifted online, and a lot of people, I think this is worldwide, a lot of people have had to change the way they do their business. An example would be we had a restaurant. This is very simple, but it's at the ground. A restaurant, a high-end restaurant, shifted to becoming a vegetable salesperson. So they were using the supplies that they were getting to get themselves cook the food and whatnot, and they started supplying it to people to their houses to sustain themselves. So, and these orders were done over online, and they started doing that. Prior to this, they were totally devoid of an online system. So that was one thing. Second thing you're looking at is the rise of, in Malaysia, Top Glove is one of the glove companies, and we are the 25% of the world's glove shares is Top Glove, and we are the number one in the world actually. So a lot of investments went into that sector because of COVID. And
So
we actually benefit.
Let me stop you for a second. Top glove, as in like just gloves that you
Yes.
wear for safety.
Yes.
Oh man, you guys must have made a ton of money off of COVID.
Yes, of course. Yes. So one of the assumptions that we all had in March last year was that all the investment guys were going like, okay, this is going down. We're going down. This is going to be bad. But it turned out the other way. There were huge jumps in a lot of investment opportunities because of the glove counters and glove, companies. Malaysia being one of the major players, one of the biggest players in the world.
Interesting. So it wasn't, I think that that's the thing about COVID is it was absolutely devastating, is still devastating. Excuse me, I'm in America. Apparently they've decided it's over here. But it's been so devastating to everyone. But at the same time, I love to see how people have adjusted, become more resilient, changed the way they do things, and it really made the world a place without borders in a way that we've never been before. I feel like even though there was a lot of global import-export, things have opened up exponentially and so much opportunity. So thank you, Gopi. Next, I want to talk to Wuan. We're all going to love her just because if she smiles and says nothing, we're still going to love her. She just has the cutest smile in the world. I just love seeing her. So she also has this really unique global opportunity. So Wuan, I brought you on to talk about the education system because education in Malaysia is obviously going to be different than we're used to in other places, but also to talk about what it's been like for you to open up and start working more on Zoom. And do you work more globally now since the pandemic?
Yeah, so I'll just share how I used to work. My clients are basically education centers like tuition centers, English learning centers. And I actually visit them like physically so that to get them to sign up my program. But ever since the first lockdown that we had in Malaysia, I decided to change my model to online. So in order to make sure my team, they can close sales, I show them by leading it as an example. I closed the first online sale within just 3 days into the lockdown. Then we started doing Facebook advertisement. We use BNI, we use Zoom. So I have to say, because of the pandemic, it's like a blessing in disguise for my business. I have increased in sales, and also we've expanded to not only Malaysia, to Thailand, to Cambodia, to Japan. So that's how the pandemic kind of helped us in a way.
That's exciting. And I like what she does because she has a platform that can teach children how to be entrepreneurs. So it will, if you have the ability to be an entrepreneur, when something like this happens, you have the flexibility and resilience. It's skills that you'll be able to use whether you choose to go into the corporate world or you choose to be an entrepreneur. The skills that you can learn, I think, are just wonderful things that we don't think about teaching kids. So I hope to see your business grow globally more too.
But I think one of the things that I really appreciate is during the change from the physical offline to online. I have one student shared that, so now it's a time for us to be flexible, to be adaptable, and then they screenshot like how they learn from online. So they had their Zoom session, and then our student did that. I was like, oh, so cute.
That is so cute. And our kids are going to be in a much better place, I think, than a lot of us, because they grow up with technology. So they're just like bam, 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 changing everything. Yeah, it's so normal for them. So I think that's really cool. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that. And next we're going to go to Coach Cheanu. So speaking of the pandemic, it's wiped out a lot of jobs, right? A lot of people have decided, hey, I need or even people thinking I need a residual income. Maybe it didn't wipe out my job, but it wiped out my savings. A lot of people going into MLM coaching, things like that. And I don't know how it works in Malaysia, so that's why I'm asking you. But I know that in the States, I think a lot of people kind of buy a starter package for whatever MLM thing they want to do, and then they don't know what's going on. So there's not a lot of coaching, there's not a lot of resources necessarily, or we don't know how to find them for MLM people. What's it like in Malaysia? Are there a lot of MLMs? Do people know what they're doing automatically? How does that work?
Yeah, basically it's very similar to what you shared happening in the States. In Malaysia, I think Malaysia is one of the most established MLM market in Asia. Okay, in fact, a lot of MLM companies that you see are quite famous in Asia. They always have their hub in Malaysia. I don't know why. So the MLM market here is quite established, and from my observation, more people nowadays are more open to the concept of MLM. Unlike 10, 20 years ago, that was how old am I now? So unlike 10, 20 years ago, people were still very skeptical about it. Is it a pyramid? Is it a money game? But now that information is more readily available, people are more educated about it. So now when they want to choose a company that can support them with a compensation plan. They want to have a company that carries good product that they can stand by on. And yes, like what you said, people start with a starter pack. But the main question here is, after they get the starter pack, what's next? Okay. So the traditional way is that you got to attend your weekly training from your team and your upline. We're going to teach you something, they teach you how to get started. But more often than not, okay, now this is a very general observation. I'm not pinpointing anyone, but more often than not, most of the trainings they got from the team training from the uplines are not really coaching. Okay, most uplines are mainly just cheerleaders, motivators. If I can do it, so can you too. Yes, you feel good, but what's next? Do you have a strategy? Do you have a coaching that ties directly into your personality? Do you have someone who can guide you how to work the business based on your strengths, your weaknesses, your personality, your characteristics, the type of network that you have? Okay, so I have been searching for a mentor like that when I started MLM 16 years ago. 16 years later, I still couldn't find a mentor like that. So the pandemic kind of gave me that moment of realization that maybe I'm the one that I've been waiting for. So I started teaching people, hey, this is what you do. Step 1, step 2, no matter which company you are in, what product you're doing, this is what you do. So I have a 7 weeks syllabus, and people come in and they say, you know what? I think I don't need my upline anymore. Okay, sorry to the uplines, but I think clarity is very important, especially in times of pandemic. Okay, I see a lot of professionals jumping into MLM because their business got wiped out, or they lost their job. But hey, MLM, it's going to be something that you can pivot and stand back on your feet if you do it properly. So yesterday I just posted on LinkedIn, there are 3 types: the posers, the amateurs, and the professionals. So basically, I'm transforming ordinary network marketers into professionals. So the market is definitely big and it's ready, but you need to have the relevant skills. for you to position yourself out there as an authority.
Yeah, I think, and I think too many people that I see that get into MLM, they start with their friends and their family, and they just don't think of it as a business type of thing. And I also like what you said. Maybe I'm the one I've been waiting for. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are in that boat. Like you start out thinking, oh, it'd be cool to do that. I wonder if I have somebody who could do this for me or that for me. And then you think, you know what? I think it's me. Like, that's kind of how I started too. I was like, I wish somebody would teach these people English the way they need it. I wish someone would help them talk and not pass tests. And then I thought, oh, maybe it could be me. I think that's why we call Coach Cheanu the Blue Genie. Like, he helps your wishes come true.
The Blue Genie, yeah.
Okay. So next, and this guy, as I said, is probably, well, I have lots of favorites. I say my favorite and then I say someone else's. So don't get too excited if I call you my favorite. But Andreas got me started with all these guys. He also got me started on my LinkedIn journey because I saw what he was doing and saw, wow, I wonder how I can really start doing more things with LinkedIn like he does. So I really, really love what he does. And I asked him to be on the show with Malaysia. And he says, I don't know what I'm going to do because I'm not even Malaysian. And first of all, he was very good about making sure I had the right diversity. Because later we're going to talk about Chinese and Malay. I didn't even know it was a thing. So he was like, no, you need a mix. You need this and this. So we'll talk about that later. But what I really like sometimes is he is an expat. So he's been there, nearly 30 years now, I think, close to 30 years. So he obviously knows the culture and the people, but he also has this outside perspective on what it was like to come from a different culture into it. So Andreas, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. I skipped Aiden, but we're going to go into Andreas. That's okay. So having lived in a completely different culture, what you talked a little bit already about what drove Malaysia to be your home. But what would you say if you compare Malaysia to other cultures that you've experienced, specifically European, because that's your home, right? What kind of comparisons do you see, especially within the people?
Oh, wow. Okay, Malaysians are, that would be offensive to the Europeans, maybe. but I think Malaysians are very, very warm people. And that means basically really welcoming. They want to share what they do know. They want to invite people. They want to introduce anyone they meet to their great food. I'm talking about food again, about their life overall. And it's even when I'm going to Germany, for example, and we are walking around there, my wife, my son, and whatever, yeah. The moment we are coming across a Malaysian, it's like a great big hello, where are you from? What place are you in? It's like meeting a family member in a different country overall. So that is the one thing I liked very, very much when I, from the very first beginning, this adoptive culture of. Secondly, of course, I mentioned the food already, so I don't want to talk about it anymore. But hey, let me just talk about the food more, okay? You got Indian food, you got Malaysian food, Malay food, you got Chinese food, you got Western food, which is Malaysianized. And what Malaysians like to do is they take one type of food and they're mixing it up with something else, and it looks really strange, but it tastes awesome. It's like putting together some rice cubes with ice cream. They don't do that like this, but it's like that overall. And you never quite know what it is. So even right now, when I'm sometimes was standing at a buffet, the food might look sweet, your taste buds get ready for sweeteners, and then you're eating that stuff, and it might be sour, it might be spicy, it might be a flavor out of the world. So it's really amazing overall. What I also like very much is Malaysian work a lot. So there's not much of a differentiation between work life and private life. Actually, these guys work all the time. Really, you can call them at 9 o'clock and still have a business conversation, okay? And that was one shocking thing overall. Oh yeah, one more thing overall to the friendship part. See, I always like to say in Germany, you get friends with somebody only after about a year, getting to know them slowly, and then you meet them and you call them friends. What happened here sometimes is the moment I meet somebody and We are sitting together, we are chit-chatting, first time meeting, and then a friend of that other person pops up, and I'm getting introduced as, hey, meet Andreas, he's a new friend of mine. And when I got to know that way back in 93, my jaw dropped down. Like, I just met this guy. He calls me friend already. It was like a really cultural awakening at that point of time. And I loved it a lot as well. What I don't like in Malaysia are the traffic jams. But talk about all these Malaysians here. Nobody likes traffic jams. Everybody complains about the traffic jams. And it's a best and favorite excuse when people come too late to somebody. They're saying like, I got stuck in the traffic jam. That's really the most favorite excuse in Malaysia, but actually also worldwide. But Malaysia is like top one of them all. So that's what I want to share along that line. I hope I could help you in answering your questions. I could talk for 2 hours about this one, I think.
Yeah, no, I think definitely. And I also would highlight the, I can imagine coming from Germany, because I also lived in Germany, and I learned a new word when I moved to Germany. It was Bekannte. So there are acquaintances. Like I had to even think, like, what is Bekannte? And I looked it up and it said acquaintance. I never used that word. Like old people use that. What is that? So it must have been a very different world, because I know when I met some of the first Malaysians I met were Kang Wei, Chi Hao, Yen Li. I know a lot of you know them as well. And I think it was like 2 weeks. And Yen Li was like, oh, yeah, if you come, just stay at my house. Like, we'll make room. There's room on the floor. There's room. I never even met the woman, just on Zoom. She's like, oh, yeah, come on over. We'll take care. Super
and you
friendly.
mentioned earlier, you want to talk about the ethnic groups, that's the most strangest thing happened to me, and my wife was really like freaking out when I was informing her about, when she taught me about this. Initially, that sounds really, really terrible what I'm saying. Like, everybody looks the same to me, okay? It was like a new neurology to me, okay? When my wife asked me what ethnic group, what race is that person, I said, like, I don't know, looks like Chinese, looks like Malaysian, looks like Malay. And then she said, I know it's the Chinese, whatever, like, really, it's a Chinese? I didn't know, I had to learn the differentiation. To me, they all look the same, Like a boss of mine was one time saying to me as well about the white guys here, that all white guys look the same as well. So we all look the same as well to them, like they look to us initially. And it can be quite interesting overall, okay? That's a great experience.
Yeah, I think that's fun too. And it's one of those things that I love to like bring out on these shows, because I think a lot of people are embarrassed to say they don't know that. And that just makes things worse in my mind. It's always better to say, educate me, because I have more respect for someone that wants to be educated than someone that pretends they know what's happening. That's when you get to be offensive, when you pretend you know what's happening and you don't, and you make a mistake. But if you walk into the room and say, hey, I'm American, I've never been here, tell me what I need to know, or I'm German or whatever. Or if Malaysians come here, hey, oh my gosh, because we've got one shade of everything in the United States, right? I mean, you can't even go into race here. But okay, so speaking of people, we're gonna go to Aiden. And Aiden is so excited about his payroll and his HR and everything he does. I just love his energy. So I asked him to give me his perspective on what the people are like, and just in general, what's everyday life? What's the weather like? When I visit, where do I need to go? What do I need to see? So I gave Aiden the fun job of telling us all the really cool stuff.
You're giving
not fair.
Yeah, a lot of questions. Okay, I think let's have more fun in these questions, that everybody can chip in if you think that you have better idea for that. So let me just start off with the weather. The weather in Malaysia, we definitely enjoy a very tropical weather year round, and sometimes the climate could get very humid, and I would say definitely but sometimes it will be not too hot. I would say it's not too hot, it's not too cold, but it will be a range from the temperature from 20 Celsius to 30 Celsius. So that will be Malaysia, and I hope that you will like Malaysia within this kind of temperature as well, Angie. Right. And what would be what would be the best time for you to visit Malaysia? For me, I think probably from January to March would be a better month. And why I say so, because usually from April to September will be our rainy and monsoon season. So that wouldn't be a good time for you to travel over to Malaysia. But January to March, I think safely, the weather is pretty good, the sky is clear, and it's pretty dry during January to March. It's like what we are having right now. So we are having almost every day rain, right? So remember, January to March will be the best month. And
Perfect, because it's super crappy here then. So it's a good time for me to leave.
yeah, definitely. So what happened if you first step your foot into KL and Malaysia? I think I do have two options for you, right? You're talking about where to stay. Okay. Now, the first day you step your foot in Kuala Lumpur airport, I have two options for you. The first option, you can have a personal chauffeur from Gopi because he stays very near to our KLIA airport. Gopi, you can have a personal chauffeur for NG, right?
Oh, thanks, Gopi.
Yeah, and option two, definitely in our KL airport, there is an express train for you to take directly from the airport to the KL Central. It is not that far. To be exact, it's about 27 minutes from the airport to the KL Central. And from that KL Central itself, I think that place we do have plenty of hotels, ranging from 5-star, depending on your appetite, to a budget hotel as well. From that central of Kuala Lumpur itself, you can literally, touch into a lot of tourist destination in Malaysia as well. So that would be my choice of a stay, KL Central in Malaysia. If you are first day comes to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia as well.
Okay. I'm looking at the comments in our group says don't mention the haze or the smog. So to watch them.
Yeah.
Awesome. So also you had mentioned in when we talked earlier. So apparently food is like just a huge thing for you guys. We're getting ready. We're talking about what everybody's going to talk about. And I swear there would have been a food fight. Like everybody's like, no, I have the best food. No, I have the best food. And I have to say, like, as an American, I was like, I don't even know what Malaysian food is. Like, I have no idea. So, Aiden, what do you think is the best food?
This question I would like Wan Xin to answer. Wan Xin, let's go by Penang first. What do you think about Penang food?
Dangerous question.
I always say Penang has the best
Try to
food.
be so grammatically correct.
But I think others will fight me. So just starting from Penang, like a lot of people like what we call the hawker food. So it's basically like street food, kind of. And we had that a lot in Penang. So even we have like those chefs that are 60 years old or 70 years old. Usually those are the ones that everyone wants to go because it tastes very traditional. Yeah.
Okay, so that's good. So I need to check out that for sure. And then bean sprouts. Somebody has really good bean sprouts. Is that Ipoh?
Yes, that's pretty
disgusting to me. What do you do to a bean sprout to make it edible? Like, why would I want to eat a bean sprout?
Yeah, surprisingly enough, that in Malaysia, only in this states of Ipoh, Perak, I would say, the bean sprout is, I can say it's totally different from different other states from Malaysia. Probably due to the limestone mountain that in that states, due to the water as well. So with that, the growing and also it's definitely very crunchy in a way. So that's what I can say. That's what I can say in Ipoh. That would be the things that I would say is really good.
Well, that's funny you say crunchy because Teacher Ken says Wanzi is a bubble tea supporter. So believe it or not, this is a thing. And even in this crappy little town of Ohio that I am, we have little bubble tea places. Is it the same where you get this little squishy stuff in your tea, these little squishy balls? So, wow, you guys are into texture too. Squishy ball tea and crunchy bean sprouts.
Angie, let me just give a perspective of someone. My wife is Chinese. Okay, I'm Indian. When we first met, there's always that option of where are we going to go and eat. And it was very funny that I insist on going for Chinese food and she insists on going for Indian food. That's what you get here in Malaysia, whereby every race is so exposed to the other race food that it's to a certain point it's so mixed. She's Chinese, but she likes Indian food because you get bored of your own food sometimes. You're eating that from the time you were born. So when you get better choices or different choices, your tongue tends to want to try and try. And so that's something that you get in Malaysia here, whereby you have so much of options, so many different options to a point where you I think if you are 70 years old, you still haven't tried everything.
Well, that's so true. You guys have I can only imagine because you have diversity in your ethnicities and your religions and your food. You've got it all over. And Aiden, one more question for you. I was actually going to ask about something else that fascinates me. Obviously, we can tell that all of these guys speak English. I have not met very many people in Malaysia that don't speak excellent English, but all the languages and dialects there. I mean, that's amazing. Do you feel like you've always spoken English? Is that the highest second language there? Andreas, you probably know better than any of them, because do you speak any other? You speak German, English, do you speak Chinese or Malay?
Oh. When I came here, I thought like I wanted to learn Mandarin. So I had a 3 months course in Mandarin, and I promise you I had jaw ache. Mandarin is a Chinese dialect, okay? I had jaw ache because of the different tones and practicing, and I had to memorize everything. And sadly enough, I have to say that Malaysians speak so well English that anytime I wanted to speak Malay or learn Malay, they spoke back to me in English. And then it was like getting lazier and lazier. I speak English good enough to get along, Malay good enough to get along in restaurants or in normal casual conversations. But my wife always says I should not speak more than 3 or 4 words in one row. Otherwise, I get too mumbo-jumbo, mashed up, totally grammatically wrong. For me, it's always okay. But I understand more than I speak. And it's also because of the beautiful ethnicity and the history of Malaysia. Every little state has its own major dialect. So it sounds Malay to them, but to me, it might sound in a totally different language altogether. And when I say Malay, it's actually the local original language in Malaysia. I hope I could make some sense here.
Yeah, it is. I see that. I could see that too, where like there's just so much English. Even when I post about things about English language or something, that you guys always have the answers. You're like, oh, this is how I learned. This is how I did it. Look at all these food comments. There's still a bunch of food comments. And we do have to mention our buddy who has these amazing tarts I keep seeing pictures of, and apparently it would probably cost me like $6 million to ship it to the US, but we had
it's worth it.
Tarts. Pineapple
it's
tart.
Worth it.
And blanch the bean sprouts. Look at all the Indian breakfast. People can't stop talking about food. It's amazing, especially because I've never seen an overweight Malaysian either. But apparently, all you do is eat. You must exercise quite a bit too.
Oh, that's like the dangerous part, you know. When I came initially, let me share the story. I was amazed how slim and slender everybody was, and I and my boss and my colleagues from the UN, we looked at them. We thought like, wow, these guys can eat 4, 5, 6 times a day, which is really true, and full big portions and not put on weight. But sadly enough, in the meantime, danger alert, Malaysia is one of the most obese countries in Asia. True or false?
No way. Is that true? Well, I'm from one of the most obese countries in the world, I think. So maybe I don't notice. I think everyone's very thin there. Oh my gosh, that is
still thin in comparison to other, maybe.
Yeah, all in comparison, right? Here we go. Look at all this stuff. This David's all over food. I could never pronounce half of that.
We got to explain Nasi Lemak to her. Come on, guys, explain Nasi Lemak to her, the national dish. Kind of one of the 10, 15, 20 national dishes.
Yeah. What is it? Nasi Lemak. No one? No takers?
Okay, Nasi Lemak is basically rice cooked in coconut milk. Okay, the rice is cooked in coconut milk. Then you have chili paste with anchovies cooked in chili paste and onions to give you the spicy taste, and that's added with your cucumbers, peanuts, and if some people like it with the fried eggs, some people have chicken curry with it, some people
Sambal.
have chicken sambal. So the spicy sambal, it's sambal. We call it sambal. It's anchovies with onions and chili paste cooked together with the rice, and that's what every Malaysian is. An example of it was 10 of us traveling back from Melbourne, landed in Malaysia. When asked the question, guys, let's have something to eat before we go back. At the same time, 6 or 7 said, let's have Nasi Lemak. No one planned it, but this is a standard answer you get if someone comes back from overseas to Malaysia. Nasi Lemak is one of the major things in Malaysia. So you should try it.
I know. I'm going to have to find some links. I will find some links to put onto this to some food here, some dishes for sure, because that's definitely a food thing. So trying to move away from food. I'm sure we'll get back there. But I'm going to move on to Dr. Ellie. So he's just this super amazing guy who interests me in so many ways. So first of all, I know all kinds of stuff about my hair. I learned how much water to drink. Every time, if you're not following him on LinkedIn, you're missing out, because I feel like I get all my life advice from the hair transplant doctor. So he knows a little bit about everything. And I thought, man, what question am I going to give him? I saved him till almost last. Yuvanes is last. Look, her sitting there patiently waiting. She's next. But I thought, man, I don't know what to ask. And then I found out that he is someone that actually is ethnic from Malay. As Andreas had said, I can't tell the difference. Like, I don't know. Of course, I don't see everybody either. I know you more from LinkedIn, but I couldn't tell the difference. And it sparked the thought in my head about racism. So in the United States, racism obviously is a huge thing. The whole world knows it. We have lots of issues. We have tons of problems talking about it. And we also have infinite types of races here. But from all the posts that I see, from all the meetings I'm in, I don't see any racism except in your potential food fights in Malaysia. Yet there's so much ethnicity and religion. Do you, and Dr. Ellie is kind of a mix, a product of awesome parents, as he would say. So I was wondering if you would talk to me about that subject, what it's like, the ethnicity there.
Hi, Angie. Hi. Fantastic topic. And again, as what Andreas would say, we can talk for 2 hours on this, but I'll try to cut it short. So yeah, when it comes to race and ethnicity, we have a lot. We are one of the best melting pots probably in the world. So and it stems historically from how Malaysia was formed, whereby we were a trading country, set up by mainly because of the way our country is. It's a very safe area for shipping lines to go through. It avoids the Indian Ocean and the South China Sea, so it helps to give ships a lot of safe passages from Europe and India to the Far East, China and Japan. And because of that, we get it's pretty much like a confluence, a funnel of many different races and ethnicity. We've got Portuguese, we've got the Dutch, English, we've got the Indians, we've got the Japanese, you name it. So, but the three main ethnicity that we have are generally the Malays, which forms about 65 to probably closer to 68% of the country, followed by the Chinese, then by the Indians, and the rest of them are what we call as still part of the melting pot culture, but probably does not form a huge percentage, but still very important. The only problem that we have when we come to the form of racism is that when someone asks any Malaysian or anyone here, what are you? And we always reply, we never reply as we're Malaysians first. You ask an American, they'll say, I'm an American. I'm an American. And if you go subset, then it'll be like American Chinese. Oh, I'm an American Latino or whatever it is. But here we always identify as the ethnicity first. Oh, I'm Chinese. Huh? So are you from China? No, I'm from Malaysia. So you're Malaysian. Yeah. See, it's a very fast step. I would say that's the only part that makes what we call as segregation of ethnicity, that we identify not as Malaysians first, although the culture is changing. Having said such, yes, there's always some form of racism in any country, probably not as rampant. I would say down on the ground, we are generally not racist, hardly. Once in a while, it does happen out of some political agenda. After all, in the world of politics, divide and conquer is still very much applied. And therefore, if they can divide the different ethnicities and therefore gather popular votes from different ethnicities, it helps with the political agenda. And therefore, when it comes to the political parties, again, the core or the age-old parties are the ones whereby they subdivide into race. We've got a Malay party, we've got an Indian party, we've got a Chinese party. Together they form an alliance, but still it's very predominantly race type. So despite all that, like I said, we generally live in peace and we don't go into racial fights. We have disagreements. It can get emotional, but generally it has not formed into any form of riots or fights, except one major one back in 1967, 68. Yeah, so that's the one and only time.
1969.
69, yeah. So that's the one and only time. And again, it was politically motivated. So again, I'm going to put that aside. So otherwise, myself, my mom's Malay, my dad's Chinese. And I, like I said, I still identify myself as a Malaysian because after all, what are we? We are all just one big melting pot. Even with the Chinese, some people get very sensitive. They subdivide themselves. Oh, I am a Cantonese mixed with Teochew, or I'm a Cantonese mixed with a Hakka. Then what do you call yourself? Kanto car, I don't know. So, but it doesn't matter. So at the end of it, what we find really binds us, Angie, and you will hate this cliche, is the food.
Yeah. No, I know. I see it. I think it's so funny because all this time I spent with you guys, I didn't realize how much food meant to you until we started planning this. I mean, there's some serious emotion. And I'll tell you something else that was crazy. And I'll bring all of you in on this because poor Wilson fell off. And I was going to ask him about, I've always been struck by how well you integrate religions. So there was, where's Wilson's notes here? Anyway, there's Muslim, there's Christian, there's Buddhism, there's all kinds of, and I feel like just from the posting, there's constant Saleh, there's always a congratulations on your next holiday, which is like every other week there's a holiday. But I thought in the United States, we don't really talk about that. I mean, it's very much like, I know when the holidays are from you guys. And then I have Muslim friends. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, I didn't know to tell you, because it's very hush hush here. We don't like to talk about religion. We don't integrate very well with religion. And Wuan Zin had said this street in Penang, in like, I think 7 kilometers, there was a temple and a church and all these
7 minutes walking distance.
Oh my gosh, 7 minutes. I know it was something.
7 minutes walking distance. Yeah.
That's incredible in that short place. And I feel like that is really, really integrated. And it was such a big deal. And I was always so proud of them. Like, I think the world could take a note from Malaysia on how well they respect each other. But then I brought up food, and you guys were like in an all-out food fight. Like, this is better, this is better, this is better. But you definitely come together on loving it. That's for sure. Very passionate about your food. So I would like to ask, and this can go to anybody before I get to Juanes, is religion. Like, that to me is amazing. Do you feel any differences there? Because I see you guys, oh, happy holiday for you, happy holiday to you, even though it's all very different. What makes you come together and makes that so easily acceptable?
Food.
Hard question. Food. There we have it. Food is the answer to everything in Malaysia. I think that answers the last question too. If you want to work with
one is
religion,
food,
about food.
Angie. One is food, and the other is the holidays.
Okay.
Because every religion contributes a certain amount of public holiday. So the Chinese contributes the Lunar New Year, the Chinese New Year, and the Muslims will contribute the Eid celebration, and they've got two different ones. One is Idul Fitri, another one is Idul Adha. So, and then the Indians will contribute Thaipusam, Diwali. The Christians would contribute Christmas, Good Friday in certain states. So yeah, we love the holidays.
Yeah, not forgetting the kings are contributing their birthdays, and we will have public holidays for no reason. And if we won the badminton world championship, we have a holiday.
If we win,
badminton,
you can also
another
get
one that
together
binds
in a
all of us
traffic
together.
jam. That is a nice part because everybody, many people migrated to Kuala Lumpur, and then when there's a holiday, Kuala Lumpur is the main capital, or the main city, is like totally getting empty, wiped out anymore because everybody's traveling back. No matter what holiday it is, everybody's on the road traveling back to hometown.
Yeah. Well, and Dr. Ellie, that definitely, and Cheanu, that definitely answers it. I mean, the fact that it's like, woohoo, not my religion, but I still get a day off. That's a pretty good, pretty good reason to celebrate. We don't do that here. I think that actually is kind of a negative side. Like, people will be gone from work and you think, well, why does he get a day off? But obviously take vacation, but it's complicated. I just think that's a neat part of what you do. Okay, so last but certainly not least is our dear friend Yuvanes. And she is a legal guru, so really different type of person than a lot of the other people that I usually work with as an entrepreneur. I love the way that she educates people. And then, like I said, when I introduced her, one thing that sticks with me is I learned about Malaysian law through her. I think, wow, I really need one of her that's an American that is posting all this stuff, teaching me things I need to know, and even more need to ask. But since the show's about working across borders, she had mentioned to me, well, two things I think is interesting. She speaks the Tamil, I don't know if I say that right or not, dialect, which was unique when I looked up Malaysia, but also the Port Klang Zone Free. So I wanted her to talk a little bit more about that, since a lot of people that watch the show are interested in working with Malaysia and customs, import, export, and legal aspects. What advice could you give people?
Hi, Angie. Thanks for having me again on the show. And what I would like to add something to what Dr. Ellie had to say earlier. What unites Malaysians, actually, apart from all the differences that we can have, is actually sports. I think if there's one sport event where Malaysia is taking part and everyone is coming together, and I'm sure no matter which race it is, we are all there supporting for the country. So that's one reason where Malaysians come together. Now, Angie, to give you a little bit of an introduction to the Port Klang Free Trade Zone, I would first like to introduce Port Klang itself. Now, this is the place that I was born and brought up for my first 14 years. And Port Klang in Malay is known as Pelabuhan Klang. It is actually a town and a main gateway by sea into Malaysia, and it's known during colonial times as Port Swettenham. But then it was renamed in July 1972, and it is the largest port in the country. So to give you an idea, the Port Klang Free Trade Zone is actually an integrated 1,000-acre of free commercial and industrial zone, providing facilities for international cargo distribution and consolidation center. So basically what it means is that companies from all over the country has actually given a spot or a place here to promote inter-port trade in manufacturing industries involved in producing goods primarily for export. And there are a lot of exemptions, as in tax, that's given to those countries to trade in Malaysia. So that is what Port Klang Free Trade Zone is all about.
Oh, sorry. My dog was barking. I had to mute myself. The Amazon man comes. I can control a lot, but not the Amazon man. Then Ozzy lets me know that he's here. So yeah, there's, I guess, too, another question I would have for you, being in the legal field, because that's a big question for a lot of people. I know I have a lawyer that helps me with copyright and trademark and GDPR. And sometimes I ask her, I said, hey, I'm teaching a class in South Africa. Is everything okay? Because I don't even know what to ask, right? And she kind of looks at me like, I don't know what to do with you anymore. I don't understand where you're going or what's happening, and you're too much for me. So I would like to start creating context for people that want to start working in different countries that we talk to legally, that we can say, hey, what do I need to know? Am I safe to work in your country? Do I need to follow certain laws? So would you be the contact if other global people wanted to start working in Malaysia? Is that something that you do, or is that something some of your colleagues do?
Right. Now, basically, we can give the general information and also the advice as to the legality that is involved in order for a foreigner to be working in Malaysia, as to the permit requirements and what are the requirements that one need to have before they can actually work here. And this will work in line with the immigration department as well. So I think we have a lot of foreign workers here in Malaysia, and yes, we can actually offer such advice.
Awesome. And if you want to be an expat, I'm going to send you to Andreas, because he's been through it and done it. So you can go talk. He's super friendly. You can go talk to him. Okay. So I know we could probably go on for another 5 hours, but in the interest of time, one thing that I always like to wrap up with is to give everyone a chance to tell me what advice you would give for people abroad. So whether it's Europe, South America, North America, whatever, and we want to start working with you, because several of you have things. Andreas can work globally. Wuan can work globally. Coach Cheanu, he can do all kinds of stuff. Dr. Ellie and his cute little guys back there, they he's not global yet, but I told him he needs to have an Amazon shop for this shampoo. I need some new stuff. So maybe he'll be global soon. But people, Malaysia is a great place to work with. It's a wonderful culture to work with. There's not a language barrier. I don't necessarily see a culture barrier because you are so inclusive of all cultures. But what is some advice you would give global professionals that want to work with Malaysia? And anybody can take the mic here. Or nobody. I mean, either way.
Well, I can start off with, first off, I mean, get to know the country. I have to tell one story. When I was traveling in a train, don't know when that was anymore, I think, and there was an American sitting in the train, and she traveled from Singapore through Malaysia to Thailand. Oh yes, we saw her in Thailand. And she was talking to somebody about wondering about Malaysia. She expected so many slums in the area, and Malaysia be very, very poor and lacking, and people standing at the railway side to beg for money, and nothing like that happened. And it just showed an incredible lack of knowledge ultimately. And I strongly believe the more you know about a country before you come here, the cultural do's and don'ts, the better it is. Actually, it makes your life so much easier. It can accelerate your adoption. You avoid complications, because if you people are tolerant, but if you're really stepping across certain boundaries, sometimes emotions might take over accidentally if you do step about something very, very negative along that line. I can't remember something like now, but it's just about knowledge makes you king ultimately, or queen. So learn as much as you can.
Yeah, I think that's
possible
good
nowadays
advice.
because of the internet.
Yeah, I mean, there's no excuse. It takes you 15 minutes to Google something and at least have a clue, right? So that you're not. I think that might be one of the only offensive things anywhere you go, is to walk into a country and just say, "Here I am, entertain me," right? So you should always have some idea of where you're going, why you're going there. Another reason I like to have these shows, and by the way, guys, I do download them. So if you wanted to use them for anything else, I'll send you this video. They'll go on my YouTube channel and you can use them. But I think that's great advice. Like, you have to know where you're going and have some clue of what you're doing before you get there. So I know that's a hard question to answer. Like, what should I know? And I think that's really good advice. And I guess overall, is there anything else that I missed? Anything that someone wants to throw in that, because the one thing about culture is you don't know what you don't know. So those are usually the questions I don't know to ask that need to be answered. So if there's anything I missed, let me know.
I'll just add one. Yeah, I'll just add one more point for anyone who is looking to come to work in Malaysia or to get themselves sort of like residing here. So generally Malaysia, as I think teacher Ken was saying, it's a very safe country. Property is dirt cheap for those who want to invest as compared to a lot of the other Southeast Asian countries. We are actually one of the cheapest places to invest. You would probably feel it's party away from home, because no matter what culture you are, we'll have your food somewhere around the corner. But when it comes to, I would say, integrating yourself with the culture, it probably would be, I'm not generalizing, but I'm just saying, just to make sure that it doesn't happen, is that most Asians are still pretty much quieter compared to someone who's a white person, right? I don't like to use the word white person, but I'll just say Malaysians generally are much quieter. We're not as expressive. We're although we are very friendly, but when it comes to a formal discussion, we are much more careful with what we want to say. And sometimes it may be seen as being easily to be stepped on. So I'm just going to say it out loud. So I don't mean any offense, but when you have an opinion, it's like what Angie does. She likes to spread the opportunity to everyone. Well, some people may take it as, okay, if you guys got nothing to say, I'm going to say everything and you're going to follow me. High likelihood we're still going to follow you, but it's still good to be more inclusive. That's it. That's all I'm saying, right? So give them the opportunity to say, all right, if you're silent means you agree with me, so or forever hold your tongue, kind of thing. So yeah. So don't take the silence as pure agreement. Always throw it out with the option that they are allowed to disagree. And in fact, I would say encourage more Asians or more Malaysians to disagree with you before we come to a mutual decision together. So that will just be my one take.
I think that's awesome advice, and something that I didn't necessarily know. But I will say that is somewhat typical of a lot of Asian cultures, is to think more before you speak. And my culture is the absolute opposite. We just talk, and maybe something will come out eventually that's useful. So it's really hard for us to work in other countries sometimes, because you're quiet. I'm really bad at it, because if people are quiet, it makes me anxious. I'll just talk until someone makes noise because I can't stand it. But I realize now that that's part of the communication process, is that the time. I
have something to share. So back to what should we look out for when we want to work in Malaysia. We do have not every industry. In fact, I would say it's more towards the administration part. We have this in Malay, right? It's called tidak apa. which is how should I translate it up? It's like, oh, it's okay, everything will be
No
fine.
worries.
No worries. Yeah. So we have this kind of there are certain parts of the country we have this kind of attitude. So just have to learn how to bear with it, be flexible with it. So sometimes I felt like, with this kind of attitude, sometimes, we get really frustrated. But, when we work with different countries, like when I was working with Japan, they are, very not as flexible. So in that sense, it's like the opposite. So both sides, kind of frustrating. So we kind of just have to find the balance of both. So we can still work around it. So that's not an issue. You just have to bear with it.
Yeah, and I think that's great advice too. I mean, the other thing I learned about culture is, for example, each one of you on here is incredibly different. Just knowing a little bit about your personalities through your posting, through some of our meetings. So the other thing about culture is, yes, there are things we need to know that are in general, but remembering, and Jessica Tan says here, keeping an open mind. People are different within a culture too. You have shy people, you have outgoing people. So just always keeping an open mind of whom you're speaking with and what you're trying to achieve will definitely help. I also wanted to give a shout out to two people who were not able to be with us today. That is Teacher Ken. I always want to say Keen because of his name, but the way it's spelled for me. But Teacher Ken, and he is also a wonderful influencer to follow on LinkedIn. He's been very vocal. Thanks for keeping us on track, Teacher Ken, today. So thank you for always being there and educating us. And also Linda Weil, she's a very faithful supporter in the US. She's always watching. She's always commenting. So thank you, Linda, for joining me, as well as the many, many people from Malaysia and a few other places. I have a German Monica that's always on here with me. Thank you guys for always joining us. And I wanted to thank all of you for being here with me today. I know it's quite a bit of time, but I feel like we talked about a lot. I really, really enjoy working with you guys. I can't thank you enough for all the support you've given me and pivoting and changing me and my business during this time too. So thank you very much. Any last parting words before we go? All right, great. Well, thank you for tuning in to Business Without Borders. Next week, we have Sri Lanka. So if you guys want to shout out goodbye in some of your wonderful languages besides English, that would be pretty cool.
Terima kasih.
There we
Selamat
go.
datang.
All right. Thank you, Angie.
I have to
Thank
go
you,
again.
guys.
Thank you, Angie.
so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a great
Thank you
day.
all the viewers.
Good night. Good night.
All right. It's time for Malaysian supper right now.
Yeah, go eat all that food that you love.
Yes, my wasabi nuts.